Happy April 1st. It's a freaking beautiful day. And I'm headed down to the garden to go check on my peas that I planted before our trip to see what they are up to. Got Kenai with me. I feel behind again. I feel behind every year. That's okay. The mountain is out. Let's see if I can do a zoom. This is the Olympics. I can't zoom in. You see the mountain out there. That is the sound. Let's check out the garden. Okay, I'm in the garden. Got my sidekick with me, who'll be with me the whole gardening season. Let's see what's going on down here. All right, we got peonies. Looks like all of the strawberries are starting to come to life. The lemon balm that I cut back is growing. Garlic is growing along the back end. Have not amended this bed yet. I did amend this bed and plant peas before we left, and they are starting to pop up. I can see them underneath there. I need to get this irrigation set back up. Looks like all the peas are popping up. Some of them covered, some of them not. The crows will come and pick them up. But so far, so good. This is a lupine, which actually didn't grow last year, but it grew this year from the seed mix I planted. This is also a really beautiful flower. I can't remember the name, but the swallowtails loved them last year. When they bloom, I'll share them. But we only amended 4 beds so far. We have not made a lot of progress in the garden. It is a pretty dry week, so I need to get the irrigation set back up and get that going for the beds that we started planting. But really, that's it. The garden is very slow going. I was waiting to see what the spring was going to look like. Got another lupine. And now it looks like it's going to be a pretty warm spring. So time to get this party started. Ooh, look at this peony. This one already has a little bud on it. Look at that. Looks like we're going to have a flower soon. I also planted all these chives around all the beds. I moved them last year. I have like a bunch of chives here that flowered, and so I've been digging them up and planting them around the beds because mice don't like them. But man, we got a lot of work to do on the garden. Let's do a little pan around, a little before, because it's going to fill up fast once I get everything in the dirt. Do another before. Oh, I just got so anxious. Like, oh my God, I have a lot of work to do. I needed something to do in the winter, so I started knitting. And now that it's gardening season, I'm having a hard time turning off wanting to knit all the time with wanting to garden. But this is me every year. It's always really hard to get going because it's so much work on the front end, but it's so worth it. Especially in August when everything is just like growing and abundant. This is your motivational message for the day, to do the work on the front end. The payoff is always worth it down the road. Over on my Instagram, I always get asked about dirt. So I always get the Blue Ribbon Blend from G&B Organics. It has compost, oyster shells, all the amendments in it. It's so great for garden beds and planting in ground. I picked up some raspberry plants. My goal with the property is to plant as much trees and fruit plants as possible so that it can offset the price of the amount of the fruit they don't tell you that when you have kids, you're going to need to get a second loan just for freaking fruit. So starting to plant out our food forest. This is what the property, the side property looks like right now, the side yard at least. Down here it drops off and there's trails. But the rhododendron are starting to bloom, which means that spring is here. This is the first signs of spring. Irises are coming up, as you saw, and daffodils are up and getting ready to finish their season. We only have a couple daffodils on the property. I haven't done any landscaping. These are just left over from the previous owners. I am waiting to landscape them actually for the first time in my life, planning out the whole property. There's already some rhododendron. There's another rhododendron tree. There's a lot of plants already on the property that we are enjoying. So what we really need to do is we need to just design where we want trails to go, trees, more plants. I think on this side yard here, I'm just going to keep with the theme and just plant the whole ridge line with rhododendron because I think that would look really beautiful because it drops off there to one of our trails. We have, I don't know, like 3 or 4 different trails. So here it is zoomed out. You can see this is all dropping off to our trails. And so I'd love to have rhododendron kind of like lining that. And this goes to the backyard, but it looks like a front yard. This was actually a hydrangea that was beautiful that I killed from over pruning my first year. I asked Kevin to get rid of it because it's just a constant reminder of my shortcomings when it comes to gardening. I just want to constantly share with you that I'm learning as I go, and you will kill a lot of plants along the way. But I am happy to report these lavender that I planted last year survived and thrived through winter. So I'm just giving them a little bit of love because I would love to plant some more lavender this summer. But I didn't want to like go crazy and plant like 10 lavender plants all only to have them all die. So 3 out of the 4 survived. So just kind of pruning back the raspberry plants and just fixing where the dogs dug up some holes. We have some issues with the dogs digging. Behind me here is a big row of blackberries. So that all fills up with blackberries. And so we'll be keeping that row of blackberries. But as you can see, we have to do a lot of clearing because they did overgrow this whole area was cleared when we moved in, and Kevin's having to re-clear it back. Literally in just 3 years, they like overgrew this whole area. I'm going to be putting my she shed there. And right to the right of that, this is where we're digging out the holes to put the raspberries. My vision is to have like raspberries lining this whole area. Oh, got a little beetle friend. If you're scared of bugs, this channel might not be for you. But anyway, I was worried because we have a lot of like clay pack, but this was all really actually nice soil. Like it was diggable. So I'm really excited about that because I want to plant a raspberry guild. I am very inspired by permaculture. And so I'm really happy to see this. I have some yarrow, which I read was good to plant with raspberries. So you can Google companion plants for raspberries, and that is essentially a guild. So you would plant your raspberries and then you would plant the companion plants around it, and that's what makes the guild. And the guild is what keeps pests away. Switching gears, I wanted to talk about learning new things. So I started knitting. I returned to knitting when I had my baby just because I wanted to lower my screen time with, being under a baby all the time. I wanted to have something that I was doing to relax and to keep my cortisol levels down and not scroll. So this project is something I've been working on now for a while. I was just showing you how I messed up the collar, and then I just went to go fix it, and I just see these bumps here. Wanted to show you, like, this is how detail oriented I get with my knitting, because I could leave these 6 rows. But then once I noticed them, I was like, oh man, no, I have to fix that. And so what I'll have to end up doing is ripping the whole thing out and then picking up those stitches. And as you can see here, I fixed it and it just looks so much better and it's so worth it. But I just want you to know I mess up a lot. Okay, so the last couple of years, so last year's garden was not awesome. I was pregnant. It's very hard. I was super sick throughout spring in the first trimester and exhausted. It was very hard for me to get it going. I did have a garden, but it was mostly flowers. My goal for my garden is to eventually have 98% of our food coming from it. My first 2 years, my garden was pretty good. And this year, I promised myself that I would not start a bunch of seeds, do mostly direct sowing. And then of course I got super paranoid that I wasn't gonna have a garden and I started a bunch of seeds. I'm actually starting more seeds this weekend. And I wanted to show you what I got going on here in the seed starting station. Okay, so one of the things I was always going to start was, one of the things I love starting is tomatoes and peppers. So I got those started. The tomatoes are about ready to plant up. I actually decided, Kevin and I decided that we want to have like start learning how to flower garden, like just like really, I don't know, maybe one day like get into flower arrangements. I don't know, just a little hobby. So we have dahlias. These are called celosia, and these are zinnias, and I'll also be direct sowing zinnias when it gets warmer. And then down here, kind of not really going too well. And some of these, like, they're still germinating. Like romaine is taking forever to germinate. My spinach isn't germinating, but I'm about to go down there and direct sow some spinach. So I don't know why the spinach didn't germinate in here. Maybe it's too warm. I don't know. Spinach is cool loving. It doesn't really make sense to me. But the bok choy is about ready to move down. But yeah, this is 3 rows of spinach and not 1 row of the spinach germinated. So I don't know what that's about. But also down there, some of the lettuces didn't. So, you know, I just wanted to show you the reality behind the seed starting and gardening. I always like to show the reality because I'm new. I'm a new gardener and I'm still learning. But we got onions here, chard, leeks. I've got a bunch of kale down there, and that's all broccoli and cauliflower. These are sweet peas, which are one of my favorite flowers. So some of this stuff is about ready to get like hardened off and move down because they're cool weather. But I just wanted to show you what I got going on. This is all flowers. So we got like snapdragons, which I only had like a couple come up. I'm growing some milkweed, which only had a couple come up. But these are all flowers over here. So again, experimenting with the flower growing, and most of my veggies will come from direct sow. But here is some that I started to get me going for the cool weather crops. Quick break just to remind you that a lot of these things happen in like literally like 30-minute increments. Kevin and I taking breaks, switching off when the kids don't want to come outside to just do like random tasks. And that's what adds up over time. Just like small things every day over time. Okay, today, planting radish, spinach, carrots. I am in Maritime, Washington on the coast. So I'm in zone, actually it changed since I've moved here. I think it's like 9A, 8B now. So what I love about living in Washington is like how rainy it is in the spring. Every spring that I've lived here, it has been like the perfect planting weather. Last year was the only year where it was way too cold to direct sow. So gardening was very hard last year. It was very strange. I did not know how to maneuver it. From what I heard, it was weird for a lot of people. So that's why I think my veggies, I was just so confused. Plus I was pregnant. I was tired. This year, I'm just like going for it. I'm pushing the seasons. I'm getting things in the ground. I have, cool weather crops that I'm going to be transplanting. Today, I wanted to teach you about succession sowing. So what I'm going to do is I'm planting spinach on the outsides. So 2 rows on the outsides, and then on the insides, I'm experimenting with something new where I'm planting carrot seeds and radish seeds in the same row. So essentially, radishes grow very fast. They'll aerate the soil and make room for the carrot roots that will grow up underneath. I'll harvest the radishes and the carrots will come up from below. I thought this was really cool. And then in 2 weeks, I'm going to plant on either side of these rows. So in between, and I'm also experimenting with not following planting spacing directions, because I hear that is the biggest hack for gardening, is just to like really over plant and not really follow those directions and just kind of like go for it. So I'm just really pushing the rules, pushing the seasons this year, really just like loosening up on what I've learned and just trying to find like my own style to gardening. Which with everything, that's how you do. In the beginning, you follow suggestions and advice. And then as you do it year after year after year, with whatever it is that you do, you find your own style, what works for you, and your own kind of like recipe for success. Raspberries like loamy, sandy soil. So what we have here, like they naturally love, hence all the blackberries. So I'm very excited to see what they do here. But I still filled in the holes with something called Harvest Supreme. I'll show you the label, but basically it is a soil amendment. So soil amendments are what you typically can use like halfway through your growing season, like when you're transitioning from spring to summer, you can like amend your soil and put it on top. It's like a soil and a compost mixed together. So I just decided to fill in the holes with that and give them some like extra nutrients to help them to take roots. I'm also really pumped that it's raining. I know most people probably wouldn't work outside when it's raining, but it's really good for the plants. When you first plant anything new, you want to give it a good soak. Even though it was raining, I just really wanted to make sure that the roots got a good soak. And I don't know, being a gardener really makes you appreciate weather. I love planting in the spring because nature does its job. Here is the label for what I'm using just to fill in the holes and what I'll put on the top of my beds when I'm amending them. I have a big vision for this area. Eventually, I would love fruit trees, and this whole wall will grow up with raspberries. And then to the left of the raspberries, I'm going to have a she shed right here. So this is an official before video. So I'm adding 10 more rows. Well, sorry, no, 8 more rows to make it 80. So the pattern calls for 72. But I'm just gonna make it 80. Round it up so they're long. The sleeves are extra long.
Yeah, it's gonna be short. When you were way short on the vid.
So we have 3 dogs and 3 kids. So this wet mop has been a game changer for me. With wood floors, like the dander and the dirt and all the hair and stuff can really collect. So I really try to run the wet mop a couple times a week, if not more. But this weekend was a big weekend. So I had set up the crib in the beginning and it just turned into a thing we piled stuff into. So we took it back down. But this week we have transitioned the baby to start napping in the crib from his snoo, and he will soon be in the crib full time. I also started some hot weather seeds, some cucumber. I wanted to get a jump on cucumber. Actually, there's a couple things that I showed here that actually didn't end up starting because I then always read the back of your seed packets. So that little melon, that hanging melon one, the moon melon, I actually read that they like to be direct sown, which I prefer to direct sow. I don't like starting seeds. It's a lot of work. I like to direct sow and water the dirt and let them grow. But I read they like hanging baskets. And since I'll show the porch one of these days, but it's pretty much like a little greenhouse at this point. So I'm going to go get some hanging baskets and plant them in there. And then Sunday night, I was like, I'm going to finish this damn sweater. Started seaming up the sides. It got to be like 11 o'clock and I was like, if I'm not going to start my week exhausted. So I finished as much as I can, but I wanted to show you like what seaming up and sewing up the sides entails. It's pretty tedious and time consuming and I do not love it. I did not finish the sweater. This never ending sweater. But I did get to a point where at least I'm attached to a ball of yarn. I did at least get both the sleeves sewn on in the middle. I'm gonna leave the sweater on the island, on my kitchen island, so I can get to it. I had to redo this. I had to do this collar, I had to redo it, I think 4 times. Could not get the stitch right. And then I've done these kinds of collars where you pick up the stitch twice before. And then I finished it and then the band I couldn't get over my head. So I had to undo the cast off, the bind off, and then redo it with a stretchy bind off. So now it's stretchy. And then of course the sleeves, I did too short. I read the pattern wrong. And so I had already binded them off. And so I had to take off the binding on those and add 15 rows to each one. So anyway, this is what it looks like right now. But it will be cute when it's done. This side is the closest to done because this is the side that I did sew up. The side, which I did learn from the pattern after I'd already sewn up the side, that you're actually supposed to sew the top on first, flat like this side, and then sew it all up. But I had already done it this way, which is what I've done with 2 other sweaters before. But we can kind of get an idea for how cute it's going to be when it's all said and done. Don't look at that. See? And then I've got to block it, and it's going to make it nice and baggy. So anyway, the goal was to finish it this weekend. Did not happen. Made a lot of progress though. Maybe next weekend, because this week I am taking a socks class, and I also, such a cute sweater, I also got accepted to be a test knitter for a sweater for a girl who's making a pattern. So I ordered some cheapy yarn off of Amazon for that, because I didn't want to spend like $200 on yarn for a test knit. So I got like $60 worth of like Lion Brand yarn. This is the Wave Wool, by We Are Knitters. This is their kit, the Fry sweater kit. Oh my God, look what I'm doing. I'm making a mess. I'm making a fucking knot. I can't do this right now. One of my other sweaters or beanies that I knit, it had a pom-pom. Pom-pom fell off, but there's 2 versions, one with and one without. My daughter still has a pom-pom on hers. We have matching ones. This is my new favorite beanie. All right, but the reason why I stopped knitting is because I need to go to bed. Till next week, maybe next week's vlog, I'll have finished the sweater. We will see. I would love to have it finished and blocked soon, before it gets too warm where I can't wear it, because that would really suck.